Before we start, if you're enjoying these conversations, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and leave a review for Cleaning Up. It really helps other people to find us. Also, find us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, where you can watch highlights from each episode, read my takeaways, and keep up with all things Cleaning Up. Cleaning Up is brought to you by our lead supporter, Capricorn Investment Group, the Liebreich Foundation, and the Gilardini Foundation. Hello, I'm Michael Liebreich, and this is Cleaning Up. Today, it's my great privilege to welcome His Serene Highness Prince Albert II, Prince of Monaco, to Cleaning Up. Conservation of the oceans has been of special importance to the Prince's family for generations. His great-grandfather, the first Prince Albert, funded scientific research and founded the world-famous Monaco Oceanographic Institute. Since his accession to the throne in 2005, Prince Albert II has made environmental campaigning a key feature of his reign. The Prince Albert II Foundation, which he established in 2006, is dedicated to protecting the environment with a special focus on climate change, biodiversity, and water. Monaco's fourth Ocean Week coincided with our filming of this episode. During the week, Prince Albert launched the Re-Ocean Fund, aiming to raise $100 million over 10 years to invest in startups that support UN Sustainable Development Goal 14, Life Underwater. So please join me in welcoming His Serene Highness, Prince Albert II of Monaco, to Cleaning Up. So, Monseigneur, thank you very much for joining us here on Cleaning Up.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
So, a great pleasure, particularly to have another Olympian on the show, as we had one before who was Axel Spingard,
who's a good friend of mine as well.
And you know, when I was introducing myself, it was always a bit embarrassing because, of course, he was rather more successful than me. But you went to 5 Olympics, is that correct?
That is correct. I had the privilege of being a 5-time Olympian, so from 1988 to 2002, and it was an incredible experience, as you know. But to be just a part of this formidable event and to live in the Olympic Village and to get that experience, and then on 3 out of the 5 occasions, I was the flag bearer for Monaco. So to carry your country's flag and being with your teammates and the whole delegation there, it's a very special moment, and so I cherish these memories, but I cherish the whole adventure of having a 16-year career as a bobsledder on most of all the different tracks of the world, and just the friendships that I was able to foster during that period are amazing, and of course they're still not quite the same as early childhood friends, but nevertheless they're very strong friendships, and it's a very tight community. As you know, most winter sports and most, these kind of sports that only really exist or have any recognition during the Olympic Games, it tends to make that community very, very tight. And so it's always a pleasure when I get to meet up with old bobsleigh friends. So,
do you remember each of the Olympics, the 5? Because I was at Albertville.
Yeah.
So 1992, where your track would have been in La Plagne, and it's a track that is one of the only tracks that I've actually bobsledded on. But do you remember each one separately?
Oh yeah, no. Every Olympic has it. Of course, the first Olympics that you go to is that you participate in is the most special, because you're discovering everything, and it has more of an impact on you, I think. So Calgary has a very special place in my memory. But yes, I remember every race. Maybe not every run, but every one of those Olympic of those 16 days at the Winter Olympics that I was participating in has a special place.
Yeah.
I think I can pretty much remember I was only at one Olympics, and my first was also my last. That makes things easy. So I do remember the Olympic race, but you do tend to remember races. It's funny how they get kind of engraved.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're recording this during Monaco's Ocean Week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm particularly grateful because it must be an incredibly busy time. Have you been heavily involved in?
It is a very busy week. There are several events every day, and then of course there are numerous side meetings, and because there are a lot of different experts in different areas that are here. A lot of people that I've known for years. A lot of friends in oceans conservation and other areas that and we're able to pool. That's the beauty of this Ocean Week, is that we're not only able to pool like-minded people in ocean conservation, but different scientists, different NGOs, different international organizations, but also the corporate world and different representatives of different businesses that are interested in investing and different solutions to help our oceans. And so it's really a coming together of different stakeholders and different people interested in not only learning more about the state of our global ocean, but willing to play a part. And so that's why it was important to convene these people here. And we have been doing this for 14 years now. It hasn't always been a complete week. It was just the first event, which is the Monaco Blue Initiative, which is kind of a forum for bringing together also political leaders. We had the president of Costa Rica this year, and his country, of course, at the forefront of environmental conservation and initiatives. But and then it developed over the past 3 or 4 years now, or more than that, into a whole week of different events, not only at the Oceanographic Museum, but at the Yacht Club primarily, and with great initiatives and great innovative solutions. And I was yesterday also at a presentation of different yachts from very prestigious companies that are starting to think differently in terms of propulsion and are proposing hydrogen and fuel cell technologies to equip their new and upcoming yachts. And so that's a great step forward. That we've been talking about this for a few years now, but to see it actually happen is extremely encouraging.
And there's definitely a huge amount on the move. I work across transportation, energy infrastructure, so I'm watching some of those initiatives. But there's one that really struck me, which was the launch of the fund.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's not yet been fully formalized, all the details of it, but it was very interesting to see the role of finance being really showcased at the Ocean Week.
Absolutely. So we have to go back also to last year's Monaco Ocean Week, where we launched the Ocean Innovators Platform, which was a convening of different investors, but not necessarily for a fund, but philanthropists and people interested in helping to make a difference and to create networking and contacts between them. But then this year we decided that was not enough, and so philanthropy can only go so far, and so that's why we launched just a couple of days ago the Re-Ocean Fund, which is going to be a fund of which is capital equity fund that will have an initial fee of 100 million euros, and of course we it was a formal presentation of it, but we are very confident that just gauging from the feedback that we got from that first presentation that there is considerable interest in this, and so that's it was a solution to get to get the financial world and different entrepreneurs and different investors interested in different projects that concern our ocean.
And it's a joint venture. We'll come on to talk about the foundation, but it's a joint venture between your foundation and a private asset manager.
Yes, Monaco Asset Management.
Yeah,
and they've been active in the principality for years, and they have a known track record, and they are able to pool, I think, substantial funds and have the contacts for those investors that have expressed interest.
Now,
so I'm very excited about this.
I was very struck by the continuity of your family's commitment to the oceans, and that's something I'd like to explore a bit, because it is generational, is it not? I mean, you started with I believe it was your great-great-grandfather, who was really quite a significant ocean scientist in his own right, was he not?
No, he was an incredible adventurer, first of all, and his love of the ocean and of science, but of all sciences. He had a curious mind, and that he was, and that instinct of being curious about everything and about different ways to explore the world, but always, of course, with a scientific intention. And so although he wasn't scientifically trained himself, he loved to be surrounded by scientists, and so he personally funded and equipped four different yachts that he owned over his lifetime, and supported different expeditions, not only here in the Mediterranean, but in the Atlantic and the Arctic Ocean, and so some 28 different expeditions. And so he was quite a navigator, but really kind of gathered a lot of very and in those days these were the early days of oceanography, and it was still a relatively young science, and to be able to galvanize that many people who accepted to join him on his different expeditions really made a difference and helped develop that science quite significantly. And so he was a great visionary and has left us an incredible legacy, not only with the Institute in Paris, but with the Oceanographic Museum here, just a few blocks away from here.
Indeed, and my first exposure to oceanography, frankly, would have been through the films of the great Jacques Cousteau, who was the director of that.
He was the director of the museum for well over 30 years, and he launched a few of his expeditions right from here. And I remember going as a young teenager with my parents to see Jacques Cousteau and his team of the Calypso off on their. And this was in the early 70s, and it was I think it was in that time a 4-year expedition.
This was his voyage to the edge of the world, I think it was billed as.
Yes, I believe that was the one. Yeah. But he was an incredibly generous man, and he let me, and he and that's my only regret, that I was never able to, because I had, of course, high school and then college commitments, and so I couldn't join him. But he had invited me to come join him at different points of that particular expeditions, but also the ones after that. And so that's my only regret, that I was never able to join him.
I have to ask, did you get any sort of behind the scenes tours of the museum, the institute?
Oh yeah,
you did, yeah.
Yeah. All the back of the house and back of the aquariums tour. Oh yes, I did that many times, and then when the scientific center was in the museum, I was in there a few times as well. So it's really a very special place.
And so, did you always know that when you took office that the oceans would be one of the major themes that you would be developing, building on that legacy?
Yes, but and that's why it was important to establish that we weren't going to substitute ourselves to the museum and to its missions, but rather be complementary and work with them on those issues. But also, I was very intent on not only dealing with ocean issues, but with other very pressing issues of surrounding climate change, of course, but not only forests and the deforestation, water issues, and the general concern on biodiversity, be it on land or at sea. And so that's why we were able to get involved, get the foundation involved in so many different projects of protecting different species, but also of different scientific projects, biodiversity inventories, both on land and at sea. And so it's really much more than just the oceans, although we wanted also to help prove that the oceans are absolutely are of vital importance to not only to the overall balance of the world, but to our own survival on this planet as well.
Let's come back in a minute to the foundation, the work of the foundation, which is broader than oceans. But I'm struck by this image of the sort of 17-year-old you waving goodbye to Jacques Cousteau, and then you later went on your own expeditions, quite significant expeditions. You've described yourself as, is it the bipolar prince who's been to both poles? 2005, you went to the North Pole, and you actually stood in the same place as your great-great-grandfather and took some photographs. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. That was this was in the summer of 2005, and there was an opportunity to go with a small scientific team from the Monaco Science Center and from the museum to do the same route around Spitsbergen and the Svalbard archipelago. Excuse me, and that was a really very interesting and quite thrilling trip. And yes, we did stop in most of the bays and saw the places that he was able to name. But in one bay, the Lilyhook Glacier Bay, he took personally, Prince Albert I took one of the most significant, I think, pictures that were others taken by other explorers, of course, but of that glacier that's in the end of that bay, and to see it, to just very simple comparison when you and we tried to stand in the same place where he actually took that picture, and to see the way that glacier has receded, some 5 to 6 kilometers, was actually pretty daunting and pretty scary. And I was able to go back this past June. What the Oceanographic Museum organized a cruise on a cruise ship, but that is also scientifically equipped, the Commandant Charcot of the Ponant Lines, and this was a commemorative cruise for the 100th year since Prince Albert I actually left us, and so we were able to go back to the Lilyhook Glacier, and it has receded even more substantially than 8 years ago. 16 years ago, and so we really this can only reinforce my conviction and our conviction that those who at the foundation and those who were around me at that time that we need to really with this understanding of what is happening in these extraordinary, fragile, and important parts of the world, and like both polar regions, that we need to do more to try to protect them better and to minimize our impact.
So the 2005 trip, was that kind of a climate awakening? Because I had a similar experience with glaciers in Switzerland. I was doing some cross-country in near to Pontresina, St. Moritz. And
I know it well.
There's a valley there where they've marked which year the glacier came down to which point, and it is kilometers that it has receded in the last 100 years. So for me, that was an awakening. Is that your experience?
Yes, that and the dog sled trip to the North Pole, which was the following April, where, we were on the ice cap then, and seeing the varying degrees of thickness of that ice cap as you approach the pole, the actual North Pole. And we had one guy in our expedition, one member who fell in the water, and who fortunately caught himself in time, and so there wasn't too much damage. He had to change clothes, of course, because they were a little wet. But that was an indication also that things were changing rapidly, and this was in April of 2006. And right now, I'm not sure, because the conditions, as I've been told by other observers, that are even worse. And I don't think that expedition with dog sleds could be possible anymore, even in the early part of spring, because the ice thickness simply isn't there. Yeah, and the changing of weather conditions.
There are routes in the Alps that I've climbed which can no longer be climbed because the permafrost has melted and it's now too dangerous. So you went in 2009. You went to into Antarctica and you visited science outposts. But I want to move forward to 2018. You did something really interesting. You went to the Torres Straits and you met up with Alec Tipoti, and that resulted in a film and a real sort of meeting of. It sounds like it was a meeting of minds, or an emotional meeting of minds, with this Giringun artist.
Well, Alec Tipoti and other Aboriginal artists were in Monaco a few years before that, because we had this big exhibition at the Oceanographic Museum on Aboriginal art, and it was. This was, of course, sponsored by the Australian government, and so it was really some outstanding artists, and we did a whole exhibition, not only of their work, but also photographic exhibition of where they lived and what were the conditions in different parts of Australia, and we really had a wonderful contact, and so he then invited me to come and visit him and his community, and it was really a wonderful trip, and we and at that time I didn't think that we were going to actually do a documentary, but he asked if a camera crew could follow us, and I said yes, and it turned out to be a really a wonderful moment and great conversations on what their living conditions were and what was affecting them, and of course the difference in the seasonal differences are much more marked now than they ever used to be, and the rise in temperatures and the degradation of sea life and the problems with ocean acidification also in that part of the world are pretty significant. The bleaching of corals, of course, and other impactful elements that can be visible and that they can feel. And so it was really very moving to see that what their relationship to their natural surroundings are and how connected that they are to their natural world and their natural surroundings, and in our Western countries we've lost a lot of that connection, and so that's also what we are trying to do at the foundation, is to have people have a better awareness and a better understanding of how these natural mechanisms work, what is affecting them, and how we can be better members of the natural world, because we do belong to the natural world.
So that was the documentary Alec and Albert. One question that I have is, as you talked to Alec, as you talked to the other Giringuns that you met, was there any anger towards the West, the wealthier societies? I'm just very struck by their vulnerability and quite, modest means, poor societies down there. And then obviously, coming up to Monaco, which is almost an epitome of epitomizes wealth. Was there any anger? Because the climate change is not caused by the Giringuns. It's caused by people who live our lifestyles.
No, I didn't feel any anger. I felt frustration and not necessarily understanding why this is happening. I mean, they do know why, but they can't. They don't want to blame anybody. It's just unfortunate that it is happening. But they're of course urging us and other countries around the world to do their part and lessening our and diminishing our greenhouse gas emissions and to leave more sustainable lives. And we absolutely have to do that. We absolutely have to move in a fairly significant and fairly rapid way toward a decarbonized economy. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of funds, and it's going to take a lot of commitment on part of civil society, on different industries, but and also on political leadership. But we absolutely have to move. We have no other choice but to live slightly differently. That doesn't mean that we have to, completely abandon all our commodities and all what makes life comfortable. But we have to live and feed ourselves and heat ourselves or cool ourselves and use transportation in a different way.
Now, you've got your foundation, which has been 17 years now, as a platform to address these. I suspect it's more and more about climate issues during that period, but it's these and other issues. How does the foundation work? What's the modus operandi? What's your sort of theory of affecting those changes through the foundation?
Well, quite simply, it was responding to urgencies that I saw, and that everyone who joined me in the foundation's inception, that we needed to do something more than what the government of Monaco was already doing, but couldn't address other issues in other countries that we had a bilateral relation with, and so that's why the foundation first started just funding different projects that were presented by third parties, by other organizations, other NGOs, but we weren't the initiators of the projects, and it took a certain amount of time for us to fully get organized and get the expertise and get the contacts and the partnerships to then initiate our own programs and our own projects on the ground, but also different awareness projects through different media. And so, but pretty early on, we try to address every issue, and that's why in the foundation's mission statement, it's to combat the effects of climate change, to encourage clean energies, to address water issues and access to water, and then biodiversity is, as I said before, be it on land or at sea, the protection of different species and the encouragement of encouraging protected areas. We're thinking, of course, primarily of marine protected areas, but also on land. And so that's why we were able to, thanks to all our partnerships and everyone who has helped the foundation and a wonderful team at the foundation, we were able to be involved in some 750 projects on all continents and raise well over 100 million euros for these different projects. And so our target areas are the Mediterranean basin, if you like, and of course we didn't, because we are a Mediterranean country, but because there are also urgencies in and around the Mediterranean area, and then both polar regions, and then at least the developed countries, of course. And so this, I'm extremely proud and happy how the foundation has developed over the years, and how it is recognized as a serious entity and as someone that can be counted on and as someone reliable, a reliable entity that is only interested in advancing these solutions for our planet, and to be good partners with existing, and of course most of the other organizations that we work with have been around for a long time, and we didn't have much to teach them, but we want to be alongside them, and because we all have to work together. No one can act independently and in their own boxes or in their own silos. It's multidisciplinary, of course, but it's by working together that we will achieve the results that we are hoping for.
Tremendous. And I ask your forgiveness because I'm a maths geek. So I'm dividing 100 million by 750 projects.
You had time to do that with my long answer. So.
Well, it was. Don't worry. I was also concentrating on the answer, but I did do the math, and it comes out to about 120,000 euros per project. So I'm just very struck by the granularity of that, because it's quite hard. A lot of charities, a lot of NGOs find it hard to get funds down to those, frankly, smaller but really kind of on the ground important projects.
Yeah.
But that appears to be what you're doing through partners, presumably.
No, absolutely. And none of our projects would be possible without the help of partners. And that became very clear right from the beginning. And of course, even if there are projects that we initiate ourselves, we always find the right partners, because we don't have the staff we don't have the knowledge on the ground in some of these areas and some of these places around the world. And so, but even the seemingly unimportant projects that don't require a lot of funds, some of them have been the most successful, and they were absolutely of vital importance to the communities that were around these projects, or that lived in the area of these projects. And so it was actually very, not only heartwarming, but it was also part of the social responsibility of that is absolutely paramount in these projects.
So I know this is a difficult question because you'll want to be very diplomatic, but I'm going to ask you if you have any favorites or some examples of the sorts of projects, because it'll really bring it to life, that you've supported through the foundation in the last couple of years.
Well, maybe to go even further back than that, I think what we were able to do with, of course, with other entities like the World Wildlife Fund and those kind of people and other entities, was to make an effort, was to spearhead an effort to tried to save the population of bluefin tuna in the Mediterranean and the adjacent Atlantic area. And the hope was to put it on the endangered species list. That was not possible, but thanks to the collective efforts of all of us, of all the entities involved and all the countries involved, we were able to we forced the organizations in charge of that to lower their quotas of fishing and of course of the official quotas. We still know, unfortunately, that there's a lot of illegal and unreported fishing going on, but the strengthening of those quotas was enough to save the species and to have the population rebound. It took a few years, but those stricter quotas were absolutely paramount in helping the Mediterranean bluefin tuna survive. And so I could name a lot of other projects that are that were very successful, but I think that was the one that is still in people's minds and was still significant enough to help us grow as a foundation.
So that was a clear win. Mm-hmm. But you're doing some very interesting stuff on plastics at the moment. That's become quite a main theme, has it not?
Absolutely, and it's a worldwide problem, as you know, and a hugely complex issue, and we are looking at different ways, of course, through different entities to limit the use of plastics and to propose alternatives. But and this goes back to the Mediterranean area, the BMed initiative, Beyond Plastic Mediterranean, which is pooling together of different organizations to help not only with cleanup projects, but to propose different local projects that can make a difference in not only lessening the impact of plastic waste, but to find solutions also to recycle it or to reuse it in different ways. And so it's just for Mediterranean countries, but it has proven its worth, and just seeing that the number of initiatives in different countries around the Mediterranean is extremely encouraging.
And you, one of your other expeditions, which we didn't talk about earlier, was to go 5,000 meters down, and you saw plastic at depth.
Yes, this was on the invitation of Victor Vescovo, who's a well-known explorer, and he's been able to dive with his own sub that his company has built, and he's been in the deepest part of every ocean around the world. And so he invited me to dive in the Calypso Trench, which is off of Kalamata, Greece. And this was February of 2020. This was just before COVID, just before the lockdown. But it was an incredible experience. And it is true that the only things we saw, we saw one deep sea shrimp that was kind of floating by, and the only thing we actually saw on the bottom was sheets of plastic and the bottles, and he Victor Vescovo told me that he saw the same thing at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. So that is only proof, if need be, that we are facing an immense problem, and that we have to absolutely work on.
I mean, it's a sobering and a terrible story, but I have to say I also love the way you've blended your own exploration, adventuring, with then bringing that experience back and doing something about it. And we have I think a mutual friend, it's fair to say, Bertrand Picard, who was one of the early guests, and he talked about a good and interesting life? It has to be good and interesting.
Yeah. No, he's an incredible person and a great friend, and I admire his different adventures around the world. Of course, with a special, not only bridling orbiter, but a special thought about his solar impulse project, and we were very honored to be the control center here in Monaco, to host the control center, and so I was part of that whole adventure very, very closely, and it was really a breakthrough in aviation, but also his foundation for 1,000 Solutions is an incredible initiative, and he's been able to pool different and to bring together different initiatives and different companies that do propose solutions that work. That they just need to be scaled up and of course need funding. But it's an incredible achievement to have brought together so many different great initiatives.
And I'm honored to say that I'm actually on the advisory board of the Solar Impulse 1,000 Solutions. I want to finish, if I might, just with just looking at Monaco itself, because you have a 2050 decarbonisation target. It's not the easiest of territories in terms of you don't have a huge land area to do solar panels. Mm-hmm. How is that going? How important is it? How is it going?
Well, it's vitally important. For me, I made that commitment on behalf of the Principality at the time of the COP in Paris, COP 21, and so where we all had to make commitments. And I'm happy to say that we are on target. We have passed the 38 or almost 39% of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Of course, it's still a long way, and there's only 7 years or less now toward 2030. But I'm confident that we will reach those targets.
Do you have concerns about some of your, many of your subjects would have properties outside the Principality? They fly to New York, they fly to Miami, and so their footprint is only to a small extent going to be here in the Principality. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're fully on board, in their whole lives with those targets? Or are they saying, right, well, we'll go along with it here, but don't expect us to stop flying or really make any deep changes?
I think there is. If you'd asked me that a few years ago, I would have said, yes, it is a problem, and we will try to address that. I think by showing them what we're doing, and by raising a significant amount of awareness, people do realize that they don't need to travel as much. And I think also the COVID pandemic has taught us that too. That we were able to do a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of video conference meetings and we didn't necessarily all need to be in the same place at the same time. Of course, it is better to have a face-to-face meeting, and some have to be done that way. But and it's also leisure travel that needs to be thought of differently. But there are different compensation mechanisms now that work very well, and that people have taken into consideration and have adhered to. And so I hope that trend will continue, and it must continue. And so, as I said, it's not necessarily a drastic change in lifestyle. It's just, doing by small increments, doing what we all can to lessen our impact and lessen our carbon footprint.
And your foundation is so focused on the influence that it can have around the world, and so your other monegasques, your subjects, could also have a huge impact, I think.
I hope so.
Now, I have just realized that your tie is a shuttlecock tie, if I'm not wrong. Is that correct?
No, it is the emblem of the foundation.
So I thought it was from the Cresta Run shuttlecock.
I do own a shuttlecock tie.
As do I. As do I. So, well, it's excellent to meet fellow members of the shuttlecock. For our audience, I should explain, it's for those people who've flown out of the Cresta Run on Shuttlecock Corner. You get this special tie for surviving one of the more traumatic experiences that you can have on ice.
Mine was okay. I just I realized I was going off the edge, so I let go of my sled and I did a wonderful dive into the hay bales, and so there was no harm done.
I hope there was film of that. I did the same, and there was no film, but yeah.
This was in the late 80s, so I don't think there's any footage of that. Thank God.
What a shame. It's been a huge pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. I wish you luck with the foundation, with all of your endeavors, and with the journey of Monaco to net zero. And I
thank you very much
again for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed today's conversation, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Cleaning Up, or leave us a review on your chosen podcast platform. And if you want more from Cleaning Up, sign up for our free newsletter at cleaningup.live, where you'll find our archive of over 150 hours of conversation with extraordinary climate leaders. And why not help someone else learn more about the net zero transition by introducing them to Cleaning Up? Cleaning Up is brought to you by our lead supporter, Capricorn Investment Group, the Liebreich Foundation, and the Gilardini Foundation.